How to calculate your hourly cost. Hi, I'm Yvan Lacroix. This is the Detailer's Business Academy, where we strive to take you from detailer to entrepreneur. Now, figuring out your hourly cost is an interesting dilemma. A lot of people think it's a certain amount, but they don't add everything in that they need to add in. And let's go through a little formula. And by the way, the formula will be in the notes below. You don't need to write it out as you're listening to this. So, some of the things we need to calculate. Well, all the things we need to calculate. First of all, your mortgage or rent, depending on how you're set up. The next thing is your wages. Now, your wages include your wages, your employees' wages, clerical wages, whatever wages you're paying to run your business. The next thing, and by the way, speaking of wage, as a business owner, calculate your wage at $100,000 a year to start. And if you're not making that much, why? Think about that. And if you want to go above that number, by all means, go for it. The other thing that you need to calculate, maintenance. Now, maintenance on your tools, maintenance on the building, and that can include snow removal if you're in the north, lawn care, things like that. Products. How much products do you use in a year? Calculate that. And by the way, all these numbers, bring them up to a year. Your insurance. You are insured, I hope. From there, you also need to calculate some fixed costs, utilities, electricity, heat, air conditioning, whatever those utilities happen to be. The other things you need to calculate are professional costs. So accountant, lawyer, coaching, all things you need to consider. Other items that need to be considered, education. You're going to be going to MTE and hopefully SEMA as well. Calculate that in to education. Your IDA membership, also part of education. From there, your retirement savings. Yes, you need to save for your retirement, and it's up to your business to pay for your retirement, not you. Insurances, as I mentioned, and there's a lot of different insurances. You have your business insurance, your liability insurance, and your life insurance. Again, it's something your business should be paying, not you. Now, once we've figured out all our costs, and if you're a mobile detailer, you can take away two of those costs, utilities and rent, but you're going to be adding a lot of additional costs that a lot of mobile detailers don't think about. Now, let's say you're driving a 1982 Chevy van. Good for you. It's a classic. But in your business plan, incorporate the price of renting or leasing a brand new one. That should be calculated in your cost because one day you're going to replace that van. The other item you need to consider is maintenance. Now, maintenance on the van, especially if it's 1982 Chevy, might be a little high. The other thing, your fuel costs. Right now, fuel is low, but that's a variable. And the other thing is the number of hours you can work. In a shop-based situation, ideally, we have 1,920 hours per year that we can work. In a mobile setup, if you leave your driveway and come back 8 hours later, so an 8-hour workday, how much time are you spending on the road? How much time are you spending setting up? How many days are you losing to rain or snow? Those are all things you need to calculate to figure out how many hours you can actually work in a year. Now, one other final note, thing, cost, however you want to look at it, is communication. Communication takes many forms these days. Communication is your cell phone, is your landline if you have one, your fax machine. Yeah, well, some people still have those. And your social media costs. Now, social media costs, that can be termed as advertising as well. And advertising is something you should be looking at roughly 10% of your gross sales going back into advertising. Advertising is how you get new customers, and new customers are always needed. Now, once you take all those numbers, add them all up, and extrapolate all of them into a yearly cost. So if your monthly rent is $1,000, well, that's $12,000, just as an example. Once you have your yearly cost for all these items, then you need to multiply that by 1.3. Because profits need to be calculated in before you figure out your costs. Profits are necessary. They are an important part of customer service. If you're not making profits, you won't be around to serve your customers. So you need to calculate profits in now. They're there. They're part of it. Then you need to figure out how many people are actually on the working floor. And yourself, unless you're a sole operator, that shouldn't be included. So let's take a typical business. You have 4 employees out there polishing, washing cars, yourself running the business, and you have a clerical staff, answering the phone, doing billing, things like that. Well, the only 4 that count are the 4 out on the floor making money. The clerical staff and yourself are making money in a sense, but you're not actually in the hours worked. So the hours worked, 1,920 hours per year. And the way I get to that number is very simple. 48 weeks a year, because you have 2 weeks of holidays, and then you have some statutory holidays and the odd sick day here and there. So to make it easy, 48 weeks a year times 40 hours a week. Again, your employees should not be forced to work more than 40 hours a week. Life needs to be a balance. And if you're working 40, or if you're working 50, 60, 70 hours a week, you need to rethink things. Get back down to 40 hours. And your employees shouldn't need to work more than 40 hours a week either. Once you have that, so those 4 technicians, if you have 4 technicians, that's 1,920 hours times 4. If you only have 1 technician, 1,920 hours. So take your total costs for everything throughout the year, divide it by the number of employees, and then 1,920. And that will give you your hourly cost. Now, many people that have done this calculation have had a really big surprise. Because that big surprise was that, hey, I'm not even making half of what I should. And then they realize, well, that's why I don't have money left over at the end of the year. Sure, I pay myself a wage. Sure, I pay the rent and all that, pay my employees. But I'm not adding to my retirement income. I'm not growing the business. That's because you don't really know what your hourly cost is. And once you know what your hourly cost is, then you can adjust your packages accordingly. You can try to find efficiencies to raise that hourly cost without raising the cost of your packages. And it'll give you a much different way of looking at how you run your business and what you're after. You're going to be able to calculate exactly what every minute costs. Now, if you want to take this even further, you can look at what your square footage costs you. So if you have a 1,000 square foot shop, it's easy. You divide that big number by 1,000, and that's what every square foot costs you every year. Now, you figure out a wash bay is so many square feet. Perfect. So that's how much that wash bay is costing you per hour. You can figure it out. It's math. It's simple. It's a necessary thing. And as a business owner, the more numbers you know about your business, the better business owner you will be, because you'll be able to figure out exactly what you need, how you need it, and why you need it. And you'll be able to see where you have inefficiencies and where you have wins. Thanks again for watching. If you have any questions, comments, thoughts, or ideas, please leave them below. Happy to answer them. And remember, you can subscribe, like, share, and even hit that notification bell. That way, every time I release a video, you'll learn about it. Thanks a lot.